What is up, YouTube? First video. Today, well, it's the first of a series that we'll be starting on how to make your first game with Unity. Um, for this video, you will need to have installed Unity as well as an Unity Hub. Yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so for this video, we'll want to choose to pull up the Unity Hub, and from there you can choose a 3D game and title it whatever you want. For me, I will title this first game because this is tutorial for it. And yeah, from there you hit create right down here. Okay, so here we have a empty scene, which is the default scene that Unity loads up automatically when you start a new project. And as you can see, there's only a main camera and a directional light load up. For this part, we're going to head up to this area and click the plus button, go under 3D objects and press cube, and by either if you're on Windows or for Windows you can press F2 to rename it, and if you're on anything else, I assume, I wouldn't know, but you can go to right click on it and rename. We're going to rename this player because it's our player. From there we can see it's already at position 000. That's good because that's where we're going to be starting the player's position from. We can go under plus, create another object, 3D object, and for the rotating cylinder we're going to go with the cylinder. You're going to want to head over to the transform tab over here under the inspector and change the X rotation to 90 so we can have our cylinder, we'll be able to walk on it. You also want to change the scale of the Y or the height to 90 as well so we can have a nice long platform. Once you move it down so that the beginning is just before your player, as so, you're going to want to, I'm just going to zoom out for this part, you're going to want to pull it down, so keeping your eye on the game tab, you're going to want to pull it down so that it is just under the player, just about right there. You can also copy the rotation and such from right here if you would like. Okay, so once we have all that, I would like to, you want to head over to the projects tab. If you don't have this open, you can always go to window, up top, general, and open up your project right here. But since I already do, I'm going to create a folder by right clicking, going to create and folder. From this you're going to want to press, call it materials, because materials is what you where you get the color to add to the various objects and players around the scene. So once you head into there, you can right click in the folder and go to create, and you're going to want to go to this material tab right here, and you can call this the player material because we're going to be applying it to the player, and you want to wait for this to load up. Click on it and drag it onto the player, just like that. So once you click on it back again, you can change it to whatever color you want. I typically like to, for very simple games, I like to change it to the color red because that is just very noticeable, and you want the player to be very obvious. Next, you're going to want to create another material. It is going to be for our rotating cylinder, so that's just what I'm going to call it. And you can color this whatever you want as well, or if you're following the tutorial for this part, I would recommend coloring it gray just because they're so much more noticeable. And once we've done that, we can create another folder once you click back out into the assets, and you can call it scripts. Once you double click back into it, we are going to start making our scripts. So if you right click in here, go to create, you can notice that there's a C# script. You can click on it to create a new one, and we're going to call this one player movement. Yes, we are going to make player movement right now. Once that is all loaded up, you can click it and drag it under player. Another way to add a script that you want is to title it whatever you want, so like example script. And once you have it titled, you can press enter on new script and create an ad, and that will make a new script under the object you want it to happen to. Of course, that's not for this video, so we're going to remove it. And if you double tap into it, you will load up Visual Studio Code, or not code, Visual Studio. For me, it is Visual Studio Code because I have added this extension. And if you'd like to see how I install it, please comment it down below so I can know to make that in my next tutorial. So we're going to apply gravity and physics to this character by creating a public rigid body and title it RB. And you always want to end your line of code with a semicolon because that is what is required for C# coding. So if you press Control S to save it and head out into Unity tab, you can see that it's reloaded the page for the player, and right now we have this new area where it says RB, or our rigid body variable, and it's currently empty, so we need to add our rigid body. So we do that by going under add component, type in rigid body. Now note, for 3D you want to add a normal rigid body, while for 2D there's a different one for that. So we're going to do the normal one with no extra tags. Once we have that, we can click to drag it over RB, and that will add it so we can access it from the script. And if we head back into our code, then we can notice that we can start adding code to make the player move. So if we clean this up and press create enough space for it, and press void fixed update, following the same format with caps and parentheses, etc. Over in this, we can add RB, so we're accessing the rigid body over here, and we want to add a force to it. So add force, parentheses, 0, 0, like this, because we're adding a public vector 3. But before we, this will not currently move it anywhere. We just have it like this, because we're applying no force in any direction, as by the 0, 0, 0. So we're going to want to create a float, and a float is basically a value storage. So a public float appear by underneath the rigid body, and we're going to title it forward movement and end it with a semicolon. And once you've done that, you can head back into Unity and delete the Z variable, which was 0, and add in forward movement times time.delta time. And we add time.delta time because that is in the basics controlling it so that you do not go faster than the time that Unity runs its frames at. So if we save this, we should be able to head back into Unity. My bad, guys, I made an error in the code. What you're supposed to do is declare the value of this float up here in your code, and we are going to make it 1,000 and you want to add F at the end because that is F for like per second of time that Unity is running. And once we've done that, now we can save, and it will. Okay, so it turns out there was an error in the Unity engine, and you need to head over to under your player to player movement, and you want to change the value from 0 to 1000 right here under your rigid body. So now if we play it, it should have the cube moving forward, and there we go, we've done it. We can see it in there. So now if we head out, we are going to make, obviously the camera isn't following the player, and we would most likely want that, I assume. If you don't, it's your choice. So if we make a new script and we call it camera follow, and we open it up in Visual Studio, give it a second. Okay, so for our variables, we're going to want to create a new one that says public transform, and we're going to want to call it player, because that's the transform is the position of the player that we're going to be calling. And then we're next going to create a public vector3, not vector 2. No, that's also for 2D. And we're going to call it camera offset. So after we do that, we can delete the void start method and head into the void update, and we can say transform dot position and set it equal to player dot position plus the camera offset. And now if we wrap that up and save it, we're going to want to head back into Unity and drag this onto our main camera. So once we've done that and we head into the camera, we should see the script with a transform saying player, and if we move that, drag it into there, and we're going to want to set the offset to 1, -5. And if you copy these right here, then we should see that the camera will follow the player in our game scene, and as we can see that it is fully working. Probably do not want that to happen. So if we go and fix that real quick by changing the constraints to freeze rotation on every single axis, and if we now play it, it should not wobble so much, and we can fix the oh yeah, that fixes the error with the player falling off the beam. So now that we've created this for this video, it is about the end, and from this video we have created player movement as well as several objects, colors or materials as it's called, and we've caused the camera to follow the player. And if you like this video, please leave a like, comment it down below, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thanks guys, see you next time.